This story is called The Girls. Their custom ranch house had a duplicitous look. The tan brick, the beige roof, conveyed an almost sinister normalcy. Behind it, in the middle of a great blonde hayfield, was a horse barn that had been painted purple. Emblazoned across one side, in bright yellow, hard-to-read, lowercase letters, was a single word, womanart. I walked through the hay to my job interview. Parked in back of the purple barn were a dozen vehicles that appeared to be coincidences of internal combustion. A rusted-out white Pontiac with duct-taped pop plastic for a rear window, an old New York City taxicab painted pink, a green windowless Ford van that had been sideswiped on both sides. I adjusted my salary expectations accordingly. Inside the barn, motes of dust danced at the shaft of light from the high square window over the hayloft. Frank Sinatra sang Strangers in the Night. A great disappointment settled over me. All the workers were elderly women. They were docile-faced and white-haired, and they sat, smiling into their piecework, at sewing machines spaced across the barn in neat rows. Some machines hummed in short bursts. Others produced longer, steady, machine gun-like volleys. I was 29 years old. I liked to be near testosterone in the workplace. Across the barn at the production table was the only available source. A large, strong, even-tempered woman with a gray buzz cut whipped a screwdriver out of the pocket of her white carpenter's overalls. "It turned out so right," she crooned as she pried open a fresh gallon of red ink. Jobs were scarce in this town. Boz wanted very much to help me. He set up this job interview at the silkscreen factory with two clients of his, Donna and Iris. The word factory made me expect some men. I had dressed to please them. Tight jeans, lots of beads, my best slashed t-shirt. I approached the big woman. She looked like a Donna. Her skin was evenly pink and pale, the same pink and pale as a sow's. Her front side was soft and fatty in a general way from the neck to the groin. She hummed along with Frank as she unrolled a bolt of snow-white cotton. Her eyes lit up at my tight jeans. Well, she said. Okay, the German commandant thing. She extended her hand to shake. I expected a killer grip, braced for it, then jumped back a step as she tickled my palm. She laughed, an abbreviated pair of snorts, then settled down to impress me. "You've seen our potholders in Macy's," she said. "We created the big strawberry." She was nodding at me with an oily celebrity pride, waiting for some confirming gesture. I tried mimicking her nod. She seemed pleased. "So, trim a wee sample for Nell," she said. She cocked her head, smiling with one raised lip, like Elvis. I thought she was propositioning me in lesbian code. But a frail woman with gray skin and a trembling chin materialized beside me and was taking my elbow. Nell led me to an idle sewing machine and sat me down. "I think she likes you," Nell said. She handed me a quilted, untrimmed potholder, emblazoned with, I had seen the big strawberry. It was everywhere. My sister had the whole set, including the towels and the oven mitt. My task was to trim the edge with piping. Nell presented me with a huge commercial-sized spool of the stuff. She whispered a hint in my ear. Form your loop first. I looked over my shoulder. Donna was pouring red ink onto the screen, pulling her squeegee over the silk, printing big strawberries on potholders 12 at a time. Doobie-doobie-doo, she sang. All the women in the barn stopped sewing to witness my audition. I thought I'd go for a show of bravado rather than an actual demonstration of skill. My foot hit the pedal hard and stayed there as I sewed the potholder to my finger. Nell blinked. She licked her lips. Now that has never been done here before, she said. She led me to the bathroom to apply first aid. She clipped the potholder off my finger. She docks us for waste, she said, and stuffed it into her bra. She held my finger tight under cold running tap water. I looked down at the crown of her head. She was nearly bald. Hold that, she said as she pressed a tiny folded square of gauze in place on my finger. She taped it neatly with strong white adhesive tape. She whispered in my ear, "Give her this," and handed me one of her own potholders. Va 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 voom, Donna said. I was hired. It's cherry pink and apple blossom white. Like the rest of us, Donna's crooners started at 9 and finished at 5. For me, it was a song equivalent of being sneezed on. On cigarette breaks, I sat in my car with the radio on, listening to classic rock. One day, Nell came over to my car window. The Doors were singing Love Me 2 Times. I turned the music down. They want to know where you're from, she said. Tell them California, I said. The next day she came over again. They want to ask you something else, she said. You can say no. In the back of my throat, bile ruined the taste of my cigarette. I had all my lies ready. They want to know, can they please brush your hair? I joined the women on their afternoon coffee break. They took turns brushing and braiding my long yellow hair, standing behind me, marveling, while I sat in a chair, facing away like their 29-year-old doll. They filled their styrofoam cups from an institutional-sized coffee urn, provided by Donna, reimbursing her on the honor system, 10 cents for black, 12 cents for milk and sugar. They socialized for 15 minutes, no more, or Donna began to glower, exchanging what I would have called bad news, in tones only slightly more consequential than if they were discussing the weather. Right now, it was Llewellyn, whose life was eventful. Her grandson had died of leukemia. She hadn't yet gotten up the gumption to launder his t-shirts and dungarees. He'd lived with her for the past 3 years, while his mother finished a stretch in prison. Donna worked through the breaks. Pranks were her way of contributing to the culture of the workplace. One morning, Llewellyn came in, sat down to sew, and farted. A soft chorus of gentle, vulgar laughter collected in the barn. I used to be good at this, Llewellyn said. She worked at perfecting Donna's whoopee cushion. By afternoon, she had it down. She would wait for a break in the humming of the machines to cut loose. Soft, paper-thin laughter followed. This was Woman Art's busiest season. Donna asked me to stay late to help with the cleanup. She cranked up the Peggy Lee. Fever that's so hard to bear, you give me fever. We stood shoulder to shoulder at the sinks, rhythmically brushing down the silk screens, passing them back and forth under the roaring faucets of scalding water, lining them up, sparkling and immaculate to dry. She'd started this business in her Cape May basement 10 years ago with $50 in her pocket, and had built it into a 20-man plant with an annual gross of $500,000. Iris had been a successful seascape artist then. They left their husbands and began an affair. Occasionally, Donna complained. She and Iris split the profit 50-50, but she did all the work. Truth be told, Donna had designed the big strawberry, though she gave the credit to Iris. Iris had carved out a no-show job for herself. As the designer, she was to come up with new and ever better fruit designs. For a year now, Donna had been promising the Macy's buyer a big cherry, a big plum, a big pear. And, I said, nada. Donna's voice grew grave. It's just a matter of time before homemakers are going to be sick of the big strawberry and demand a new fruit. And that will be a dark day for woman art, my friend. A very dark day. One day, the UPS man delivered Donna a box from Wyoming. "Could you shelve this?" she said. I took the box cutter from her desk and slid open the carton. I was up to my elbows in styrofoam peanuts when I inadvertently fondled the full length of her new, special, battery-operated double-dong dildo. "Try it, you'll like it," she quipped. I turned it on high and chased her around the barn, with both bulbous ends vibrating wildly. She shrieked and ran, her arms raised high, flailing the air. "Now is that a new drill?" Nell said. "I haven't had fun like that in years," Donna said, flopping down at her desk to catch her breath. Iris got jealous. Iris's province was the ranch house. We were never to bother or interrupt her. We'd been told that she needed isolation to create. I'd seen her a few times doing shoulder stands in the gazebo. Now she began to sweep through the barn on her way to the woods to sketch, a black notebook tucked under one arm. Iris was pretty, tan, 50-ish. She wore her brown hair pulled straight back in a high, extremely neat ponytail, like a dancer. Her eyes were bitter, her smile a beauty exercise, as if she'd read that a smile creates fewer wrinkles than a frown. She projected violent opposites, warmth and envy, grace and hysteria, insecurity and grandeur, all in the space of a few strides. When she first saw me sitting on a chair while the women brushed my hair, small involuntary waves of hate issued from her eyes. I was 20 years younger, 20 pounds thinner. My ponytail was blonde and 20 pounds heavier. It didn't appease her that the women greeted her as if she were the Pope, saying her name, touching her robe. At the root of their emotion was respect for magic. Iris could draw. Iris didn't like my doing overtime with Donna. We must have looked too complicit, standing there at the sinks with the faucets roaring and the steam billowing around us. She began to show up then, too, elbowing her way between us, wearing her skin-tight Pucci leotard, showing Donna new sketches of fruits in progress. Donna could not keep her eyes on the fruits. She looked Iris up and down, her eyes wet with passion, and barked playfully as proof of her love. One day, when I went to work, a 350-pound woman with an acne problem was sitting at my sewing machine. Donna was upset. "You're now working for Iris," she said. I walked across the hayfield to the ranch house. I let myself in. I waited. Much had been attempted to make the living room distinctive. The coffee table was a slab of glass, uncomfortably balanced on some kind of plow attachment. Leather hassocks draped with afghans surrounded the table. Half-burnt candles and dusty seashells decorated the available surfaces. Bad oil paintings of the sea crowded the walls. They were all the same, plodding and predictable, with an agitated foreground emphasis on reeds. In an hour, Iris appeared, preceded by the tinkle of bracelets as she walked up the long hall from the bedroom wing. She was wearing full makeup and an exercise suit. My job was to count, as she did jumping jacks, bicycles, and sit-ups. Next, We meditated. She said I wasn't doing it right. Then I made lunch. I didn't do that right either. After lunch, she talked on the phone. I held the nail polish while she did her nails. We looked for the checkbook. Then we looked for stamps. I paid 3 bills. The next day, Iris had a migraine. We withdrew to their purple bedroom, closed the door, drew the draperies, turned the air conditioner on high. Iris ordered me to keep her dose to the limit with pain medication. Their room made me claustrophobic. To anchor myself, I memorized a love poem called She, taped to the wall on Iris's side of the bed. It ended with a couplet. She moves as water moves and comes to me, stayed by what was and pulled by what would be. Now I was jealous. If these 2 older women could find love, in spite of their incredibly annoying personality flaws, why couldn't a cute young heterosexual like me? The migraine went on all week. I followed my instructions precisely and thoroughly, yet Iris was critical and mean. I started popping tranquilizers in the car on the way to work. I missed the barn, the smell of the ink, the humming of the machines, the lives of the women. I even missed the piped-in schmaltz. I could hear it on my cigarette breaks. Friday, Donna had to go to New York. It was always confusing to see Donna dressed like a woman, in a navy suit, gold earrings, and navy heels, leaving her truck behind, and driving away in a light blue sedan. Iris asked me for her pills. I looked in the bathroom, in both nightstands, on the bureau, in the kitchen, no pills. Donna had filled a prescription, then inadvertently taken it to New York in her purse. Iris begged me to give her anything that was left in the medicine chest. I ran outside, jumped in my car, and drove down Route 23 all the way to Mahwah, where I found and flagged down Donna. When I got back, Iris's eyes were lined with pain. I dosed her and stayed by her side. It was after 9 when Donna got back. She rewarded me with an extra $20 and a secret. Iris had once attempted suicide. Ah, suicide. I kept my mother's to myself. I walked out to my car and sat in the dark, looking at the stern summer stars, clawing the skin on my forearms until they bled. I hoped my heroic efforts would make Iris trust me, but she remembered nothing of what was done or said. To get through the next week, I took pills. Here it was again, the self-destructive selflessness I grew up specializing in. I showed up for work on Monday, and the door to the ranch house was locked. In the barn, Donna gave me a check and said my services were no longer needed. They had expected me to quit. They wanted me to quit, but I didn't know how to quit. Nell followed me out to the car. "Don't take it personal," she said. Nell had a stroke. She lost the use of her left arm and hand. Donna called me up at Nell's request to invite me to the retirement party. I went early to help. It was a beautiful summer day. The sky was blue. The sun was warm. Walking through the rolling hay to the purple barn, I felt light on my feet and happy. Boz was helping me find a place to live. I would drop by his office at the end of the day to tell him about the ugly real estate listings I'd seen. It was fun making him laugh. I would miss him when I no longer needed his daily help. Around the coffee urn, Elsie fanned out pretty flowered paper napkins. I brewed fresh decaf. We tied balloons to Nell's sewing machine. There was a beautiful big sheet cake designed by Iris. A needle and thread made out of frosting seemed to stitch the words, "Farewell, Nell." Iris was on hand to slice and serve. The women gave Nell little gifts they'd sewn or crocheted, doilies, pincushions. She opened each one graciously, praising it all the while. The spirited way she picked up her dead left hand, made it do something, then tossed it back into her lap without wasting anyone's time, made it seem as if we were the ones who'd suffered the setback, not Nell. The women cleaned up the mess, then dragged their chairs into rows under the old hayloft. "What's happening now?" I said. "We do this on special occasions," Nell said. "You'll enjoy this." "Ready?" Iris called up into the loft. Only then did I realize that all this time Donna had been missing from the festivities. Iris queued up a CD. She pushed play. A great orchestral swell filled the barn, maudlin with Neapolitan strings, the opening bars of Amore. A mandolin began to plink. Down the ladder from the loft climbed Donna, dressed in a gangstery double-breasted jacket, her short hair blackened with shoe polish. "When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore," the voice of Dean Martin sang. Donna lip-synced, miming imperfectly, the idiosyncratic Dago head wags she had down pat. Her half-closed eyes were drunk with that special Mediterranean strain of maternally induced macho self-love. She strutted, she strolled, she was by turns oily and sincere. "Bells will ring, ting-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling, and you'll sing Vita Bella." The faces of the woman art women were sober, reflecting the importance of being offered live entertainment. Nell whispered in my ear, "She's not really singing." Over in the wings, Iris seemed pleased with her breasts, gazing down at them, admiring the way they matched, tucking the tail of her polyester blouse in tighter to increase the effect. "Hearts will play, tippy-tippy-tay, tippy-tippy-tay, like a gay tarantella." I was smiling stupidly. I couldn't help wagging my head to the music, tapping my foot in time. I felt tacky and bawdy. Really, there was no reason to wait for love until my personal problems were solved. I could go now to the man who was willing to help me in so many little ways, and let him help me a lot.